Hello everyone and welcome to episode 9 of the SATO Brief series. Today we're going to be talking about the Skycrane project. The Skycrane project, as people may know, is coming to a close. We're almost done with the development of the project, and we're going to be going into FSX beta testing here hopefully fairly soon. At the time I'm doing this video, I'm looking at early next week. This will be the last part of January 2021, and hopefully without any issues through FSX beta, we'll hopefully be able to get these out maybe by the end of January or early February of 2021. So it's taken a long time, several months. We're talking 6+ months since it's been essentially mostly me working on this project. I will not say it was entirely me. There are several people that were part of the simulated air tanker operations community that volunteered their time and effort to donate their time to, whether it was through photographs, references, and even some people did library work for this project. So for those people, I greatly appreciate the help, and hopefully that'll help with the overall quality of this package. So it was a very large package to deal with. With the legal, we had to stay within legal boundaries of, luckily MilViz was allowed us to modify their payware product. So for that, we're very grateful that they allowed us to be able to do this and bring the community some livened up version of the Skycrane, at least for the firefighting versions. So as you can see in front of me here, this is the stock MilViz S64, what they call the E model Skycrane, when in reality it is actually an F model. That we'll get into a little bit later into the video, but I've kind of glanced over this topic several times, either through the other update videos or some of the updates on our page. But I'll kind of go over it once again, and you'll be able to see a little bit more clearly of what I'm talking about whenever I did these modifications to these models. Largely, there's been, I wouldn't say large changes, but there have been, some models have gone through extensive changes to create the other firefighting versions. So early on in the project, we started out with maybe only doing 2 versions. But over the months that I've worked on the project, and the more I've talked to people, and my abilities in 3D modeling have increased somewhat, I was able to add several other versions. So now the total final number of products will be 7 variations. So we'll have 3 for the CH-54 A model, the Tarhi, the military version that was decommissioned and went to civilian service, the S64E, and the S64F. So yeah, 3 versions of the CH-54A, 2 versions of the E, and 2 versions of the F model. So with the MilViz version, now this is the best Skycrane model that basically existed. There was one, I believe Jordan Moore did it for FS 2002 or 2004, way back. I love flying that thing. The Skycrane is probably one of my favorite helicopters in aerial firefighting, so it holds a special place for me, and I kind of hold it maybe at a higher standard, and maybe that's why I felt that there were a lot of shortcomings with the stock version. And maybe others felt the same way or not. I'm not 100% sure, but the consensus was from a few people that I talked to that we're kind of disappointed with it whenever we bought it for FSX back in the day. So some of those things I address in the package that we were able to do. So getting back to this model here. So in the package that MilViz and Nemeth put together, they essentially call this an E model. When in reality, it's actually an F model. And the biggest difference you can tell between an F model and an E model in the CH-54 is essentially the S64Es and the CH-54As have a single large wheel here. in the S64Fs, it's this split gear design, and it's exclusive to the Ericsson models. Ericsson, for those that don't know, they got manufacturing rights from Sikorsky in the 1990s to actually build Skycranes from scratch. And the F model denotes that it was a Skycrane exclusive model, and Ericsson built it from the ground up. That's what denotes an F model Skycrane. So this model here from MilViz is technically an F model, not an E. You know, it's a slight oversight, I'm sure, but I mean, realistically, when you get down to it, the only thing they really missed was the gear assembly, which, I mean, to be honest with you, the rest of the helicopter, externally to the other two models, looks nearly identical. The only difference being is the external accessories on the tanks and the different types of tanks that are used, and, you know, several other minor differences. So that's one thing that I addressed in the package that I put together. The other is the fact that this water cannon, while it's a cool accessory, not many Skycranes actually fly with a water cannon attached. Now, the water cannon is designed mainly for use in high-rise firefighting, for high buildings, and in certain wildfire applications, I believe they can use it for that, but it's not a very widely used accessory. Although some Skycranes do have it, most of them don't fly with it attached. So the fact that they didn't have an option of where this water cannon wasn't installed, where how most Skycranes that exist in the world today don't have one, it was a little annoying. You know, granted it's a cosmetic thing, but you know, again, it was a slight annoyance for those of us that are used to seeing Skycranes fly around with no water cannon. The other thing was that the pond snorkel here. The pond snorkel is a staple of the Skycrane, and I would say most of them use this particular feature to fill up from small reservoirs and ponds and things like that. The majority of Skycranes in service use the pond snorkel. Those that have this other snorkel on the backside here, which is another Ericsson exclusive modification, is known as a ram snorkel. Now, the standard pond snorkel can suck up water in about 42 to 45 seconds and fill up the main tank here. With the ram snorkel, it allows the Skycrane to essentially fly over the water almost like a super scooper, and essentially rams water through the snorkel into the tank, and it fills the entire tank in about 30 seconds. So it's a much faster way of filling the tank if they need to. But like I said, it's an Ericsson exclusive modification as far as I'm aware, and not many Skycranes actually have this. So again, the fact that this was the only functioning scoop, or only functioning snorkel on the helicopter, made it annoying because, again, most of them use the pond snorkel. So that's another modification that I made. I made the pond snorkels functional. So, and on the versions that have both the pond snorkel and the ram snorkel, they are both still functional. So, that's essentially what I did to those. All the models essentially have a working pond snorkel with, in construct with the original accessory package, or in addition to. So we'll go through some of those models as we go through the list, but as I said, this is the stock version, and you will see that we'll go through a couple of the variations of those. Now with this package, like I said, I added 7 new models, and we also, through the members that helped with the livery designs, included another 14 liveries to go with these. So it's a lot. It's a considerable update. Along with, as I mentioned in several updates, the sounds have also been updated. So we'll go through some of these here now. So this will be one of the E models. Now we'll see right away some of the differences with the E models. So as you can see, that twin gear assembly on the F model is no longer present because this is a true E model with the single gear assembly. As you can see, externally, other than those gears, the F model and E models don't differ much. The addition of the forward equipment box was added to these, as some of the Ericsson models fly with a forward equipment box that's been used for various other parts, tools, and other accessories can be kept in this, as far as I'm aware. But this is essentially one other version of the S64E we're talking about. There's one other version of the S64E that's included, and it's the highly upgraded E model. Now, there are E models out there that have been rebuilt by Ericsson, whether they were damaged or whatnot else, and they've had accessories added to them. The other E model that is included in this package has the F model rebuilt gear, but it is still an E model. So the version that's included in this package is the one operated by San Diego Gas and Electric. That particular version has been heavily touched by Ericsson, and the gear has been modified to, it's basically, aside from being rebuilt from the ground up as an F model, it essentially has all the parts an F model would have. So it has the upgraded gear assemblies, the upgraded interior cockpit, the tank, the ram snorkel, and it has Ericsson's new composite high-efficiency rotor blades, which unfortunately I was not able to add to these models because it's so new. It's so new, only a few models have it. So it was also just out of ease of doing this package, I left those off. But anyway, so we will go on to the CH-54A models. And this will be the Aero Union equipped tank version. The Aero Union tank is 2,000 gallons. It's a low-profile tank. I did redesign this tank over the last few weeks and added some new, some more detail to it, cleaned it up a little bit more. But this is essentially one of the A models. As you can see, it's a definitely a different model tank, and the way that the snorkel is slung and all that is different. So we'll move on to the probably second most seen version of the Skycrane, at least in California and mainly United States, is the simplex equipped tank Skycranes. Now with these, they are the same rough category as the Ericsson tank. They're both 2,600 gallons. This tank I also redesigned recently. Added some more details to it as well. But this is also, like I said, it's the second probably most commonly seen version out there in aerial firefighting. So I had to include this version. This is also, like I said, a CH-54A. And lastly, this is the last version I added, which is essentially a very basic version. This is essentially a CH-54 that has just the Ericsson tank on it. No forward equipment box or anything. It's just a strictly all firefighting business. It's got the tank and the snorkel, and that's basically it. This one's operated by Siller helicopters. This is 2.5 Mike. And with these, you can see that most of the changes are simply just, like I was saying, they're simply just external accessories. So in terms of, and the, you know, the liveries and all that stuff, those are essentially the only differences between these. But we'll get on to the last version, which is the S64F. But we will look at the ones for Italy. So Italy, as you know, is notorious for this green paint job, Forestdale. Now over the years, they've changed hands. There are several operators of them in Italy, and it's now, they've gone on to, it's kind of a split use. From what I understand, is now under this agency is what operates them. So their newest Skycrane, this F model, does not have the radome in the nose, which is specifically what we wanted to represent on most of the Italian F models. Was, I don't know if you can really see it in this, but they have a radome installed in the nose of these particular versions, and I wanted to make that apparent in these models. So with the they'll include all the Forestale versions. Will have the radomes and the noses. So that essentially is a basic overview of the models that will be added. I won't go over all the liveries. As I said, there's 14, and they encompass the uses across the United States, Italy, and Australia. So I've talked to several of the people that were involved in the repaint project for the Skycranes, and they've announced that after I launch this, there will be several more repaint packages that these other people want to release for them for additional models or for additional repaints. So this is by no means the end of the liveries for this. It won't just be us putting out liveries for it. There are several other interested people that want to do liveries for this after we've retouched them. So that'll be interesting. Like I said, it's breathing some new life into these because they're such a good looking model, and the fact that they're going to be able to be used in not only FSX but P3D version 4 and version 5, brings an even more wider array of abilities to bring these over and for more people to fly them. So part of our agreement with MilViz was that their base package is required in order for these to work. So basically how the model or the mod pack expansion pack works is that you download these and you basically install them into your stock package you bought from MilViz, and these essentially use the base files for the panel and the interior and all those other things to basically make this work. So it essentially safeguards their entire product. You're not essentially just getting the Skycrane for free. You have to have the base aircraft in order for these to work. So it was kind of brought to my attention that this is how I can't remember the author's name, but they essentially did a modification to the Saracen Blackhawk to make the Firehawk version. So they basically attempted to do this same file structure that I've done with this, which is basically what gave me the idea of being able to do this and it not being essentially giving the product away for free. And it would be a huge violation of the authors and the company's rights. So this is how we kind of make everybody happy, so to speak. It protects their products, and it also expands to be able to have more versions available out there in a more modern sense. Just kind of breathes new life into it. Like I said, this project took a long time to do. If I'm looking back in my notes, I think I first started the first prototype tank over 6 months ago. So it's been quite a process to try and get these put together and working right. So we're nearing the end of our beta testing. We're about to start FSX beta testing here soon. As I write this or do this video, we're looking at within the next week we'll start. So we're hoping we're going to get these out and available for people to download by the end of January. Might be a little too ambitious, but I will say it will most likely be in early February. So currently the only thing I have left to do is writing the last bit of notes and credits for the helicopters and getting them ready for beta testing, and that's basically it. All the sounds and everything have been completed. One thing I wanted to talk about with the sounds is I added, if you haven't checked the page, I haven't really touched on it in too much detail, but I added a dynamic rotor sound effect to these. It's an optional install. You don't have to install it if you don't want to. It just adds to immersion, I think. It was brought to my attention by another user on our Discord server, and I happened to look into it, and it's a fairly interesting modification I'd never heard of, but it essentially adds sound effects to the rotors as you're putting the aircraft through a series of degrees of banks at certain airspeeds and things like that. The pitch of the rotors changes, and it creates a turbulence and distortion as the air changes over the rotor blades, and it causes distortion to the helicopter's sounds, the way it sounds. So that I looked into, and downloading it originally, it's designed for use in FSX only and up to P3D version 2. So I essentially took it and modified it so that it would work with 64-bit sound control gauge to work in version 4 and above. So that's also going to be included with this. The FSX version will come with this as well, but also the options to update it to be used in version 4 and version 5 of P3D will also be included with the instructions. So it's a cool enhancement if you want to install it on your computer with the or into the panel essentially for these. It's a fairly simple process that it's easy to install. At least for me, it's fairly simple. The way that these all install, it's basically drag and drop for the most part. It shouldn't be too complicated, at least I hope not. We'll see how that goes through beta, but so far through the early testing, people that are at least semi-familiar with installing repaints and things like that manually, this is essentially like doing the same thing. It's just a matter of following directions fairly closely and making sure that you have all the files they need to be, because there are a lot. With, like I said, 14 libraries and 7 models, you got to make sure you have to do double check everything and make sure you follow the directions. But that's kind of what I wanted to cover in this video, and I don't want to take it too much time. But that's essentially the Skycranes, and you know, after these come out, I'm going to take a bit of a hiatus because looking at Skycranes a lot is kind of burned me out a little bit. So after I take a little bit of a break and kind of come back to it, I'll get back to some of the repaints that we're working on. And before or during this project, while it was going on, kind of put everything on a holding pattern, if you will, until I got these done. And then we'll kind of go from there with conversions. Conversions might start to slow down because, again, there's not many left to do, and kind of we're in a weird space between looking at resources between FSX P3D and FS 2020. So, which you know, I may be acquiring sometime near spring, I'm thinking. But the Skycrane and maybe a few other versions, or might be our only versions of the cross aircraft or cross platform compatibility we'll be doing. So this might be the only other one, maybe 1 or 2 other aircraft that I get my hands on before we go to FS 2020 will be for FSX. The rest of them might be for P3D, and that might be it, at least until we get focused completely on doing stuff for FS 2020, which a lot of stuff is we're planning on doing stuff for that. I've been talking to Jeremy quite a bit with looking at stuff there. I believe he's moved his S2 project over to P3D, or from P3D to FS 2020. I don't believe he's going to be pursuing putting anything out for P3D anymore after he's been in FS 2020. I don't think he has any want to come back to P3D, so that model is going to be in FS 2020 only. I'm pretty sure at this particular point. We may venture into scenery design and other things like that for FS 2020, but as far as scenery goes for P3D and FSX, we won't be doing any. Our primary focus now is going to be just a few conversions and repaints, and then gearing up for maybe transitioning everything over to FS 2020 eventually. Yeah, that's going to be episode 9, and you know, hopefully the next one won't be too far along, and maybe we'll get some updates on maybe some other conversion projects we're possibly looking at doing before or sometime throughout this year. So thanks for watching, and tune in to the next one.